This guide explains how to pick projects for a product designer portfolio presentation for a job interview. Hello everyone, I've built Presentum, where hundreds of designers practice their portfolio presentation for big tech companies, and I want to address the issue that most problems are coming from misunderstanding of what kinds of projects are expected from product designers. There are four key aspects that hiring managers want to see in your experience. First thing they want to see is your craft, UI, and visuals. Second thing is product thinking, how you develop products, your individual contribution and cross-functional collaboration, how you work with other people and what you deliver to the team. And finally, the recency of your experience. If I were to suggest the importance of each aspect, I'd say the recency accounts for 10% of what hiring managers evaluate. Contribution and collaboration accounts for 20%, product thinking for 30%, and your craft, UI, and visuals account for 40%. Knowing all that allows us to filter out projects that do not reflect these aspects and frame your storytelling to highlight them properly. For each aspect, I developed a list of yes or no questions to help you evaluate your projects. First, you should list the projects you worked on. Second, you will answer yes or no questions for each project. Finally, you will calculate their scores, and it will become obvious to you which projects are the best for job interviews. No worries, I will explain everything in details. I will suggest you watch this whole video first, make a list, and then watch it again to rate your projects along with me. So list as many projects as you can, no matter how big or small. Your presentation will benefit from different sizes of projects. As a rule of thumb, it is better to split large or complex projects into smaller ones because it will be easier for you to explain them and for a hiring manager to understand them in a short presentation. Think of these projects as problems you were solving, user stories you explored, or features you implemented. Use any tool you like. Pen and paper works well. I have prepared a Google spreadsheet with questions and an online tool to make scoring even easier. Everything is free. Links are in the description. In this particular video, I will be using my tool because it is the easiest way to get this exercise done, and it is custom built especially for this purpose. On the screencast, you can see an early prototype I've built for this video over a weekend. There is a high chance the UI will look different depending on when you will try it, because I plan on improving it, and as you can see, I wrote down some projects and added the dates when I worked at the companies. This helps me estimate launch dates for projects that happened a few years ago, especially when I don't remember the exact dates, so I use the middle of the months as a placeholder. When applying for FAANG companies, it is expected that you are an established expert with several years of experience, and it's easy to list more than a dozen projects over the years. First, as you can see, I moved all the projects into the user interface from my list. Second, I added the launch dates as accurately as I could remember. Then you can see I started clicking on ovals and you can call them tags. These are the toggles for yes or no questions that I will cover in detail in this guide. When you hover over a toggle, you'll see a hint to remind you what the question was, and with a bit of practice, you'll remember them easily. However, I implore you to read every question carefully, and because every word has been chosen to avoid ambiguity. Read them carefully and make sure that you tick a box only if you have facts and examples that you can share in a presentation or in a job interview or a public portfolio. I cover every question in this guide, so make sure you watch until the end. And once you've finished answering the questions, the tool will calculate everything, apply multipliers and penalties, and then sort projects from top to bottom. Projects that are most likely to fit into a product design portfolio or be used in job interviews will appear on top. And also on the resulting page on the left, you can see filters, and you can filter project by tags. So basically, this is very helpful when looking at a specific job description. For instance, if you see a requirement about experience designing native mobile apps, you can filter projects that involve these platforms. Let us take a look at each aspect and all qualifying questions, and let's dive into the details. Number 1, the craft, visuals and design. The craft is a huge part of your portfolio. It shows that you know how to design and how design works when humans use the final product. The craft is how you execute visuals and design. Your layouts should be beautiful and functional. People like eye candy, and images should look crisp when zoomed in. This is where I virtually separate UX researchers and other adjacent roles from product designers. You should be able to show layouts, prototypes, demonstrate your knowledge and implementation of system guidelines, and ensure the interfaces you've created adhere to usability and accessibility standards. Extra points for cross-platform implementations, like when you've designed the same feature both for native mobile and web apps. Specialization and deep knowledge of specific systems are also valuable and demonstrate craft. Let's take a look at the qualifying questions for this aspect. Do you have high-definition layouts you can use in the presentation? You will need large, high-fidelity layouts to use in your presentation. Say yes if you have layouts you can demonstrate and they are of a good quality. I think it's okay to fine-tune your existing layouts if it helps explain the story better. If you are interviewing in English but your layouts are in a different language, consider translating them. Can you clearly explain your individual contribution as a designer? Since you are filling out this questionnaire honestly, please tick this box if you are 100% confident that the team wouldn't have completed this project without you. If you're in doubt, try answering this question. If it wasn't for you, what would this team miss? List what you have done, and if it suffices, it is the answer. It is essential to highlight your input because much success comes from teamwork, and some candidates hide behind other people's achievements. So when you're applying for the designer role, please do not emphasize projects you weren't deeply involved in as a designer. Have you launched this project? If you built a feature and it was launched, there is a high chance you've got some feedback from users or the team. Your designs might have affected metrics in one way or another. You could have learned from what worked and what could have been improved. I think there is nothing wrong with updating the design specifically for a presentation based on learnings. This is still your design, and it is an interpretation of these learnings. You should probably mention that to a listener. Do you have a prototype that you can use during the presentation? I've seen presentations where designers build prototypes in Figma and turn them into parts of a presentation instead of showing static files. It requires a little bit more effort, but looks way more exciting and awesome, and it is self-explanatory while demonstrating your craft and skill. Extra points if you have designed for multiple platforms. Your designs were made for native mobile platforms, iOS and Android. It can be mobile only or cross-platform solution, including wearables, mostly watches. You design a web app, something users can interact with inside a browser. Usually exclude landing pages and static websites because they are a different kind of beast. You design a desktop app with graphical user interface, GUI, for macOS, Windows, and Linux. For example, it was a browser, or a media player, or a messenger, meaning whole apps or their parts. You have examples of VR and AR, virtual reality or augmented reality, for mobile apps, glasses, or other stuff. Do you have a professional reason to be proud of your work on this project? Answer yes if you are really proud of your input for some professional reason. Significant improvements, implementation, speed, craftsmanship, cross-functional, 3D modeling, visualizations, or awards, anything profession related. It is okay to mention it in presentation. Why have I added this question? So I hope you will have more energy and enthusiasm talking about such a project. Anything that helps people boost confidence on interviews benefits you and the listener. Number 2, product thinking. Basically, this shows that you can demonstrate how you followed any framework like the double diamond, jobs to be done, or the scientific method. One way or another, They all boil down to three things: define a user problem or formulate a hypothesis, test solutions, verify the outcome, rinse and repeat. It should be clear that your designs were intentional. Some folks show drastic changes in irrelevant metrics or unexpected outcomes that could have been prevented by these practices. You want to showcase projects where you had metrics to work with, where you understood user goals, and where you conducted testing or launched experiments to verify the results. It is about the impact you're making as a designer, about how you drive business results and improve the user experience. This is what sets product design apart from all other types of design. So let's go through the qualifying questions. Can you state a user problem in one sentence? Designers often fail to clearly communicate the problem statement of the user or business. If you can reduce the statement to one simple sentence without extra complications or explanations, it will make it easier for people to understand what you're trying to solve. It will help your listeners understand what you are talking about through the rest of the presentation or a case study. If you have a lot of explaining to do, you probably lack a simple problem statement. This might signal to a listener that you didn't know what you were trying to solve, or it will confuse them and you will waste precious time during the presentation. And yes, it is hard to explain the problem in one sentence, I know, and I've been there, but there's a trick. It helped a lot of people. So answer this question if you're trying to figure out what the problem statement was. What would have happened to end users if your team wouldn't have implemented this feature or project? If you write it down, the answer is most likely would be the problem statement that you're looking for. Do you have user research or data analysis to support your design decisions? Qualitative or quantitative research? These results can be a good way of explaining your design decisions and why it was the problem in the first place, why you were trying to solve this thing. Some people call this approach as data-driven design. Some people call it data-informed design. And no matter how you call it, if you relied on any research to draw hypotheses from or ideas for your improvements, mention these data points in your storytelling. And obviously say yes if you have them. Have you tested different hypotheses? Hypothesis guides you on how to design an experiment and what data to track and analyze. There may be multiple hypotheses, meaning different ways to approach the problem. It is very valuable to mention some of them, as well as how you prioritize which ones to test first. Hypotheses are either proven or disproven using research and experiments. They are a part of the scientific method. If you use this approach, mention it to explain your thought process and enhance the context of your presentation. Have your designs improved relevant product metrics? Usually, metrics are related to revenue, retention, speed, and customer satisfaction. Solving a problem should affect the metrics. Metrics are measurable and thus objective. Presenting this information will help you explain how you verified your solution. Has it solved the problem? How did you verify it? If you performed A/B testing, mention it to support your story. Were there any measurable improvements in the user experience? You can think of them as the user-related metrics. You want to show that the user is front and center in your designs. For example, you might want to measure user satisfaction through metrics like the usability index, error rates, task completion times, net promoter score, or lifetime value. These metrics are often evaluated before and after the implementation, across cohorts, or during user interviews and tests. Number 3, collaboration and contribution. You should provide examples of cross-functional collaboration and your individual contributions. Highlight the exact things that made your input valuable. As a product designer, you are an integral part of every stage of the product's delivery. Typically, you will collaborate with people during the research phase, the ideation phase, the design itself, implementation, and even when launching products or experimenting with ideas and marketing the product. So that's a lot of room for collaboration. You want to show how you communicate and work with others to ensure the best results. Tick boxes if you have examples like quality assurance testing after the dev team created a build, how you provide feedback or report bugs. cooperating with a product manager to prioritize tasks, stakeholder management, presentations, then maybe engaging with the engineering team on building UI components, handing over layouts, discussing the most optimal and technically viable solutions, or even contributing to the code base. Collaborating with customer support before and after the launch to highlight problems and see how launch affected users and the support team. Working with content editors or copywriters to improve UX or storytelling within a product. So you can come up with your own examples of cross-functional collaborations. I just gave those for you to figure out or to understand what kind of examples are expected. Remember, the keyword here is examples. Tick boxes if you have something substantial to add to your story to demonstrate collaboration. Think of these examples before answering yes or no. Number 4, recency. Projects in your portfolio should be recent, ideally from the last 2 or 3 years. The sooner the better. Technology and practices change, and you want to show you're always aware of these changes and implementing them in your daily work or routines, proving that your knowledge is relevant to modern workflows. For example, if you worked on a project 5 years ago, that experience might be already irrelevant because things have changed and your skills improved since then. You can mention older projects in passing, especially when talking about your background, but what hiring managers care about most is your recent experience. In your list for each project, add launch dates or design handover dates. Now, write down a list of your projects from the last few years. Rate them, compare the scores, and see which ones would work best for your portfolio. Consider writing down the facts from these questions. As a bonus, I'm including slides with all the questions we discussed so you can pause the video, review them, recall relevant facts, and outline stories for your projects. Remember, you can test and practice your portfolio presentation with peers in a safe environment on our platform. It is free for designers. Head over to dojo.design or presentum.io for more details. Links are in the description. If you know a designer who might benefit from this video, please share it with them. I'm also happy to receive your feedback. Feel free to email me or leave a comment. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for more videos.